Hello and welcome. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful back in the studio after a much longer break than I was anticipating. So if you are just joining me for the very first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy this video. It's going to be a look back at the last year, so you'll kind of be able to see a variety of different things that I do and have worked on in this year, and maybe you want to look back and watch a few of the specific videos. I do set my channel up with playlists of my videos so that you can kind of hopefully find them. If it's a certain project, watch it from beginning to end. Some projects that I may have started a while ago, I still haven't finished, but you'll find everything I'm up to in that playlist. If you want to, if you like this and think that there's useful things on my channel, I hope you'll subscribe. Click on the little subscribe button, and then if you want to receive notifications, you can click on the little bell and you'll know when I posted a new video. So I hope you enjoy this and find some useful things. If you have been following me along and noticed that I have been gone for a while, I will quickly explain what I was doing and what I was working on during that time, and then move on to my year retrospective. Today's January 31st, 2022. I hope our power stays on so that I can get this uploaded today. We're in the middle of a snowstorm and it looks like a big one, so I don't know if we'll have power all day. But for those of you who have been following along and wondered where I have been, I had, and for those who have just, found me for the first time and don't know this, about a year and a half ago, my husband and I purchased a second home. And so this year was really kind of figuring out the going back and forth, what I can work on here or there, and kind of try to keep some continuity and just not have such big gaps between videos. But at the same time, just a lot of things going on in life. I felt like I wasn't working in here creatively as much as I wanted to at times. So it was really good to go back and actually look at my videos, make a list of all the things that I had done this year, and feel like I actually had accomplished a lot more than I was feeling like I did. Not that I have to or should feel pressured about that. It's really just supposed to be a creative outlet. But at the same time, I would have that feeling when I was pulled in other directions of wanting to do this, but having a hard time maybe getting back in the groove after I had been gone, figuring out where I had left off on one project and that sort of thing. So it was really kind of a strange year for me. And then in August, I noticed a little issue I was having myself, and I needed to have surgery. Everything's fine, nothing serious, but I went to Paso for Thanksgiving, was gone for probably a week or so, so I didn't do any videos at that time. And then I came back, tried to get ready for Christmas as much as I could because I hadn't done a darn thing, and we would be having it here. And then I had surgery 2 days later. So that was a little over 4 weeks ago. I thought I'm superhuman, like we all do, and thought I would recover much quicker than I did. It's supposed to be 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm not yet there, but I had in my mind that I would be much better the following week, and because I don't do anything, really physical, I would be able to stand here and craft and do videos, and that just did not happen. So I'm much better. Today's my first day kind of standing here and trying to do a video. I wanted to do this for the last few days, but it kind of was feeling off and on about it. So today is the day. I'm hoping I get this uploaded so that you can watch it. During the time that I have been laid up, luckily I could sit in a chair and, sit by the fire, and which was really nice, binge watch Netflix, whatever I wanted to do. Watched a lot of YouTube videos, which is great because it makes me go back and kind of focus maybe on things that I wanted to learn that I haven't done yet, or if I got sidetracked, kind of go back and watch videos of maybe people that I had heard about but never taken the time to watch. And so that's been a lot of fun. So I did that at first. And then when I could actually, maybe felt like doing something, I knit. I do a lot of different things, and one thing I do is knit. I have lots of neck warmers in my Etsy shop, which is the very end of this video is as I made my list going through my videos. I'm going to kind of go in that order. So my list has 20 things on it of things that I did throughout the year based on me going through and looking at my videos. So I'm going to follow that order so you can kind of go back to the beginning of January yourself if you're brand new, like I said, and kind of, you know, watch them in that order. So I'll kind of get to that. Before my surgery, I knew I wasn't going to be able to lift anything. So I left my workshop in a huge mess. And that was part of the deterrent of me coming in here because it felt overwhelming. I knew I didn't have the physical capability or energy to clean up. And I had just been gone for, you know, a week before I came back and had the surgery. And then I carry my inventory of my Etsy shop back and forth with me so that I can ship from wherever. And it's in these large bins. You know, like you put Christmas decorations in and things, really large bins. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to lift those, so they're everywhere. They're in my room. Stuff has been, you know, I'm going through to ship things. And with the neck warmers, you know, they're not heavy, but they take up a lot of space. So I have a bin, 2 bins of inventory that's on Etsy, a bin of inventory that's not put into Etsy yet, but I've, you know, a whole bin of those, and then a whole bin of neck warmers that I need to put buttons on still. So I tried to work on those a little bit, and I did get a few more listed, so you can check out my Etsy shop. This is the perfect time of year for these. I'm sorry that I didn't get more on there before Christmas. I did ship quite a bit before Christmas, but it was the time, and I just didn't have the physical capability to get more than that done. So I'll put those aside. The other thing that I worked on is I decided, one thing that I did last year, and it'll be on my list, was I had started doing slow stitching, and this was a slow stitching project from another channel that I did and had not finished. So I did work on that. I'm not going to show you right now. It'll come a little later on in the video, but I did work on that, and so I'll be showing that to you. From there, I started watching Anne Brooke Textiles, and she did a couple of projects in 2020 that really appealed to me. And so I've started those. One that was on a spool, and that it'll go like this. And I might show you this a little bit more when I get to my little slow stitching section. And then a book. And these were just for fun, not for anything, but just to sit and for fun. So I want to work on these. I've really loved sitting by the fire in our little guest room. It's just a nice cozy place to sit in the day when I can't be in my studio. The other thing that I worked on, not too much, it took a week or so before I could sit where I usually do this in the kitchen. And I had started this before, but I don't know that I may have shown it a little bit. This is something that I've taken back and forth with me when I go to the other house, because it's something I just sit in the evening and work on in the kitchen. And what it is, it was some gel prints that I had cut. I think this was maybe a 5x7 gel plate that I used. And I had made all these gel prints, and I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I just love the texture of them. They were just done on probably regular copy paper, you know, 28-pound paper, something like that. But just when you add all that paint to both sides, it gets really a nice thicker texture. And I just love that. So I cut them in half, not knowing what I was going to do with them. I think originally I had folded them in half, like I was going to put them into a book. But I decided I wanted to work on them in maybe a strange way. And because I was going to use paint markers, they needed to not be in a book. They needed to be able to lay out and dry the way that I was going to do them. So I cut them in half. So I ended up with all of these double-sided that I'm going to maybe put into a little book for myself at the end, maybe like a little ring book of some kind, because I want to see the whole thing. But the fun thing is I started out with just Posca paint markers, paint pens. I got the pack that had 3 sizes. These came from a different one, I think, but you can sometimes buy them in, I think it's 3 sizes. white, and white. Okay, so 3 sizes in black and white, and that's what I started with. So I was only doing black and white doodling on all of these, and I would take one and just do whatever lines spoke to me on that page. And I'm going to kind of show you each one as I talk, because I think I did this once before, but they've come a long way now, because I started out with black and white, just doing whatever little doodles I wanted to do. And then I decided to buy some colored ones. And so I have kind of started doing them with color. And I kind of grab one and I look at it to see if there's any little thing I want to add. Like this one, I'll go back and add the black dots. I was letting the white dry. And I'll just kind of doodle on one a little bit and then set it aside to let it dry and pick up another one and start working on it. So I've been working on these for a little while. I don't know what they'll end up becoming. I could always, if I just decide to choose one side or the other, glue them down on the front of a card, you know, a greeting card of some kind. Or I can scan them if I want, once I feel like they're finished. But some of them I've done a little bit, some I've done a lot, some I've done nothing. So it's really just extremely relaxing in the evening to just pick these up and play. And I really like that because it's a little creative thing, but it doesn't take any thought. I have no expectations about what I will do with these. And so it's just a lot of fun. It's not a Zen doodle thing, I would say. When I show you my other book, you'll see if I can remember any Zen doodle actual designs, I can use those. And I also actually have some cards that I had been making up for actual Zen doodle patterns. But these are just more of my own making up things, because I'm not experienced with Zen doodle, but it's just that kind of idea. Just, you know, whatever little doodle lines or marks speak to me. This one I haven't done anything on yet. And if I don't like a color or how something's coming out because of their paint pens, you can completely go over it and cover something up. And I really like that aspect of using the paint pens. They go over, you know, these painted surfaces really well. This one is a little bit different than that other one. Of course, you know, you saw the other one, it would have been the other half of this gel print. So because I've cut them in half. And so that's kind of fun too, because you'll have 2 backgrounds that are similar or the same or very close, and you can treat them very differently in your doodling. So it's just a fun, relaxing thing. So maybe I shouldn't go through all of these. I'll do maybe a to music flip through at the very end when I have it put into a book. So that's just one thing that I have been working on for fun. And my little pins, so I'll put that aside. And then the other thing that I do at the same spot in the evenings is this doodle book. I love this because I've taken it to a hospital while I have to sit there all day kind of thing. Just anytime I can carry this with me and have it to use. And I'll just kind of flip through these. I know they're not very close, but some of them, it's funny, I've gotten, you know, really smaller and smaller. And you'll see when I first started learning, this was the very first thing. And I can't remember the person that I saw somebody, it was called a magic circle, and they did it much more open. This one actually is similar to hers because I had no idea what to do or what I was doing. So I was doing it in color, and I had only gotten this far, and then I ended up going all the way to the corners after. And this one I started coloring. These are just with markers, regular, any kind of marker or gel pens, any of that kind of thing. This one's come out of the book, but just my little crazy doodles. This one was going to turn into a birthday thing, and I actually wrote words, happy birthday to you, around because it kind of looked like her face. And then I showed it to her. It was just too creepy to give it to her. And then this one really, really tight and detailed. You can see when my moods are different. And these, I just use plastic nib. Where are they? I just love these Micron, the plastic nib. They come in lots of sizes if you don't get the plastic nib, but I found I pushed too hard and I end up pushing the nib back into the pen. So I found these PN, the plastic nib, work the best for me. And they're archival. So these are just, you know, I'll flip. This one's another super tight one. Where I would do them and then fill in all the negative space. So this book is, they take quite a while. This book, these are 7 by 10 inches pages. But it's fun because I've almost filled up a whole book just doing them in black pen. And I could go back and color them if I want. You know, I was doing them so tiny that I wouldn't want to even go back. This one isn't finished. I want to go back and do all these streamers, finish all these little streamers with little things. But most of the time I start one and go all the way till it's finished in just one. Again, these I've all finished, even in all the negative space. And this one's pretty crazy with all these little stripy things. I really like that one too. It's just, again, something fun to do when you need to have your hands moving like I'm just that person. And this one I'm working on. I just have a few more pages. I bought another book. I think the book I bought next is a little bit smaller. And I just love, we adopted a little family over during COVID. And they're just like family now. And anyway, one of the little girls, she's 8. And she was sitting at the bar where I keep all this. And I was cooking and they were here decorating our Christmas tree. And I caught her where her mom was sitting there. We're all just kind of sitting and talking. She's not even paying attention to the fact that she knows this is my book, that this is my doodle book. And usually I get art supplies out for her because she just loves art. And so I usually get her own things so she doesn't draw on mine. And I'll find little sticky things everywhere, and she brings me art that she's done and all that. But I had to laugh because she wasn't even paying attention. She picked up a ballpoint pen and started doodling on my doodle. But I thought that was really funny. So she has filled in, but she filled it in with a little heart, which I thought was cute. And she kind of stayed in the line. So I didn't scold her. I just I let go, and I let her add to mine. So I'll always remember that she did that in my book. Okay, so to my list here of the year. So the first thing in the year that I started out with, and I have not used them, which is really funny, are these travel folios, because I wanted something I could keep in my bag. So these were all done with scraps of my gel prints, little bits and pieces. There's a video on how I made these. You can do them in any style that you want. They're little trifolds. This one doesn't have anything in it at all. But you can see where you can put the paper in here. And anything you want, just tuck things in. That was one. This one has something. So this was all done with scraps. You know, like I said, this one has just some mixed media paper, or just plain. Actually, this is just plain sketch paper. And then I put in a little removable thing with elastic that has just a pencil and a little blending stuff. Just so if you wanted to play around. So these were fun. That was a fun thing. You don't have to, you could do them in any style. This was just some fabric I had that I liked. And actually I put coloring book pages in this one. You could fill with anything you want, with a variety of things. These are not my doodles, but these are just from an actual coloring book. I cut the pages down to fit in here. This would actually have been a good present. Maybe I have to give it to her, of my little artist friend. And put some things, and she could always have this with her. That would be a good idea. Maybe I'll have to do that. Then I went from these to continuing to use my scraps and just make these cute little notebooks that you can throw in your purse. They are, again, with scraps of gel print with just some cute little exposed binding, stitching, some fancy stitching with beads. So I show how to do that. There with book page. I recently saw someone asking a question on one of the Facebook groups, how you can gesso paper, recycled paper, get it smooth enough to write on. And I don't think I even had to smooth this, but you can use a little buffing, a little very fine sandpaper just to buff that smooth if it's gritty. Mine aren't, but I did find, and I think if my memory is correct, I do address it, which kinds of pens work the best to write on this. And I believe the Sharpie, just a regular Sharpie, the fine marker, was the one that worked the best on gessoed paper. So, but you can, try your own experiments, depending on what you want to do with the pencil, But I do have a video of trying out different things and what worked best. That was the beginning of the year. And then next on my list is digitals. So one thing that I had been wanting to learn, again, I don't think I mentioned this, but I only started this channel in August of 2020 when COVID hit. I'm sorry if I've already said this, but after COVID hit, I was looking for a different hobby to do. I had been previously making jewelry, which I have a website for that, and doing the knitting, which I had the Etsy shop for that. I was looking for learn how to do mixed media techniques. And so I had found book art, I'm going to call it, just this whole genre of crafting at that time, and started my channel then. So it's gone in all different directions. Basically, it was just a way to share what I was learning. So I'm a beginner still. I'll always be a beginner because I think I'll always want to learn new things. But one of the new things that I took on last year was learning how to do my own digital kits. So these are my thumbnail of each of those. I was shocked when I saw how many I actually have done. So I'm going to go through these. I won't show you all the things. There are videos of each one of these, except for maybe one, which may be combined as a second one in a video. I couldn't find it in my content list. But I started out with these grunge backgrounds from actual papers that I had made using grungy coffee and different techniques. And I just loved how they turned out. And so these are some grungy backgrounds. That was my first one, I think. And then I did another random hand-painted papers. If you watched my year before, I had done a journal that was all brightly colored. It's my Bohemian journal. It's this one, and I'll show you that in a second. But it was all brightly colored, hand-painted gel print papers. And so I did a second kit that wasn't based on a specific journal. It's just these backgrounds so that you could use them in similar type work, collage work, that kind of thing. So there was that paper pack. This one, you'll see my banner is different. This was my very first one, and it was from my Bohemian travel journal. When you see this thumbnail, I've left this kit in my Etsy shop because it's for a specific journal project. So it was the papers in their original like 5x7 size, plus the ephemera that I made for that journal, at least some of it, are all in this kit. So I've left this kit on, but it made me do a second kit, which was just the background papers, because there were actually more, I think, than I had put in this kit. And I can't remember, but let's see. I did these size to 8.5 by 11 sheets. So there are two designs because they were 5x7s. They're side by side in that 8.5 by 11 sheet. So this is just the backgrounds without all the ephemera. Then I had started working last year, the year in 2021, on a vintage grunge journal. And when I did that, I did these papers. So I actually got my digital kits together. One is again, I did it on my gel plate, but they look like vintage wallpaper. So I call this my distressed wallpaper pack. So there's that one. And then with that one, around the same time, I didn't find a specific video on this, but I put this digital together around the same time, and it's I call it fresco finish backgrounds, because again, they were done on my gel plate, but they just look like old walls, not with wallpaper, but just kind of fresco type finishes. And then I moved on again, still I'm working on my grungy things. I was rusting fabric, and so I did a whole digital kit of some of my favorites, rusted fabrics that can be printed on paper and used, or printed onto fabric and used as fabric. And then I did one that was Vintage Book Volume 1. And I started doing these Volume 1s because I know there's going to be more in my future. And I love this. I collect old books. I have forever, long before all of this. And so I started scanning the covers and then some inside paper so that you could actually print these out onto fabric and create your own fabric books. I did, this one was actually a little old Bible, and this is the actual size of it. So this is made from this digital. And so it is in fabric. I printed on fabric. And I should find the original. So this is the original Bible, and it's really a thick book. Because it's for one, a Bible, and it's really small, so the pages, you know, you had to have more this way just to fit all that text in. So this was the original Old Tattered Bible, and that is my printed on fabric one. And so I went ahead and I'm intended to do this with this whole kit, which I haven't done yet, is make actual books out of them. So this one I did make a cute little book. It has more than 365 pages in it. So that I thought it would be, because it was a Bible, it would be really cute as a gratitude journal. So I may put this for sale in my Etsy shop, but I did, all the pages are tea-stained, my tea-stained papers, like all the corners are rounded and just distressed a little bit more around the edges. So I love how that turned out. So this is a Vintage Books. I had done that Vintage Grunge Journal Volume 1 last year, and I had finished it, but I had never finished the digital kit for it. So I actually finished that. And this is really all the stuff that I have made myself or scanned that I can scan for the journal, the Volume 1 journal that I did use. So there's that kit's in there. Then I did, I was going to start working on Volume 2, which is on my list here soon. But I wanted to do some more rustic textures. So these were all photos or scans that I took of actual things that I owned, old wood and different fabrics and things, vintage green sack and that kind of stuff, vintage screen that I had rusted and things like that for textured backgrounds. And then one other thing that I use a lot of, and these were all my own vintage watch faces that I had. And so I did a digital of that where there's, let's see, there's 5 different designs in 4 sizes and in 3 colors. So there's a total of 60 different ones. So always read the descriptions, because I'm always very honest and open about my descriptions, but not everyone reads them. And then if they get something, they thought they were going to get 60. I had one person thought they were going to get 60 different watch faces. And it doesn't say that. It says 5 designs, 5 different watch faces in 4 different sizes. So those same 5 I've made in 4 different sizes, because you want, see, this one is here, here, and there'll be another one behind here somewhere. So that you have them for different things. You can just cut them out. Okay. And then 3 different colors. So these are the original, there's a black and white, and then there's a sepia. Okay. And then I did another digital kit with Vintage Book Pages, Volume 1, because I'll be doing more. But these were all from books that I could copy and use. Which leads me to, I think I might have this in another thing under the books. But I also have a video, I'll mention it now, is copyright. People have lots of questions about what can I copy and digitally sell and that kind of thing. So I have a whole video, just that I'm not an expert, but it's based on my research and the rule of thumb that I go by, and how to calculate that and how to find out if what you have is copyrighted or not. So Vintage Book Pages, in case you don't want to go through all that hassle of collecting and scanning and making sure they're okay and all that. And then I started doing some vintage collage So all, you know, up until then, these were all pretty, you know, basic, me doing artwork and scanning it. And then actually doing digital collage. And so I've got 2 volumes of those. And there are videos on each of these digital kits so that you can see each page up close and personal and that sort of thing. So I did a lot more than I had recalled all in 1 year of just learning how to do digitals. So that was kind of a big accomplishment for me once I looked back. The other thing that I had started in January was slow stitching. And now I will pull this out. I had started, I had done a little bit of slow stitching that I showed the year before on paper. I was doing it on old book page. I had learned to embroider as a kid, hadn't done it in lots and lots of years. And so it was all kind of like riding a bike, learning new stitches and that kind of thing. But I wasn't completely new at it, I would say. New to slow stitching though, for sure, because it's a whole different kind of thing. But if you know how to embroider at all, you can do this. I had started following a project by Roxy Creations at the beginning of last year called Journal of Stitchery 2022. So you can find that. There's a hashtag. You can find them on Instagram and all that. But there's a YouTube playlist under her hashtag of Roxy's Journal of Stitchery. And she's continued on and done other projects. She may have done ones before then, but I didn't discover it until then. So I started it. I was doing pretty good keeping up, and then I got really behind. So while I was off from surgery, I went ahead and I was down to my last page, getting it all put together. And so I haven't done a video on these 2 pages, but I think I'll do a flip through when I completely finish it. But I need to get them finished, put together. I might do this on camera, but I ended up having to switch my cover out. I needed a bigger spine than I ended up with. So I had made this cover. These are done in a video, how I do these, because they're kind of similar to my Vintage Grunge Journal. So there's actually videos on how to do something like this. And I had done this one, so I'm going to just use it because it was the right size this way, and it had a little bit thicker of a spine. So while I was off doing my surgery recovery, I decided to do the spine cover because I wanted, one of the reasons I wanted to learn the stitchery, the slow stitching at all, was I had been watching Roxy Creations, Rachel, and really loved how she would take and use old books and then cover the spines. Because of the way she would bind them, it was to cover up, you know, the stitching, the inserting the pages there. So I've made this one. I love how it turned out. And I love that I kind of waited until the end of this to do this, because I've used fabrics and different things. You know, I'll take something from every page in here, whether it's color palette or some of the fabrics I used, and put them on, you know, to make it kind of a cohesive thing. So I think I'll put this all together on camera in this coming year, and hopefully very soon. So that was my slow stitching. And then, like I said, I'm going to continue on with Ann Brooks Textiles. She has some projects in the past that I really want to do. So I'm going to do the spool one. So far, I probably won't put these on camera because this is just something I'm going to sit by the fire and do. But I will maybe from time to time put photos on my YouTube where you can just do posts. And then maybe when at some point, you know, she has videos on how she went about this, and she kind of has little challenges as she goes along. So you can find her videos. I'll put a link to her channel down below because that's what I kind of am following to do this. But I'm doing mine. I wanted to kind of, I think, do it all in neutrals with my rusted fabrics. One of the things I like about just anybody who does slow stitching, or maybe her specifically, is if you are precious about certain things, like certain laces that I have a few pieces of things that I keep hoarding and I don't want to use because I only have one, or do I want to put it in something that may end up getting sold? You know, that kind of thing. I end up getting a little too attached to things. this is a good way, if this is something I'm going to keep for my own shelf, I can put it here and then at least I see it in something pretty. So that's going to be this. And then like I'd said before, I'm going to also do, she did it in 1 year. I think this was 2020. The first half of the year she did the spool, and then it was finished so fast that she ended up spending the rest of the year doing a book. And so I'm going to do that too. And then she did the following year, I think 2021, the 52 handmade tags. And I want to do that too because it ends up being a ring of tags, or however you want to present them. I think I'll leave them like that if I ever get around to it, because it's just a prompt in a way. You know, she did tag roulette last year, I think, where she would just pull 3 tags and take whatever prompts they were, and that would be what she worked on her piece. She did like one whole piece, decorative piece, based on just pulling tags. So for me, that's perfect. You know, you can't think of what you want to do next, just look at a tag. So I'm going to work on her old projects, but I'm going to start them now. I don't see why you can't start any project whenever you want. So I'm going to work on more slow stitching. And I'll show you another thing I get when I get down further on my list where I've incorporated it again. So then the next thing I did was coffee dyed paper. I don't have any of the old stuff that I'm going to show, but there's a video on, there's so many ways to coffee dye paper. There's lots of videos out there. I recommend watching just lots of different ones and find the way that you like to do it. I've done it multiple different ways, depending on what I need it for. And I will give you a sneak peek on the coffee dyed thing that I'm going to do a video. I haven't done one. This was while I was in Paso over the Thanksgiving holiday. I worked on all of these, and so it's just another coffee dyeing technique. And I kind of started deciding I might want to do just a journal of backgrounds using this coffee dye technique. So I will do a video about this. They just come out great. I just love them. Even on an envelope here. So this will be a video to come. Another coffee dye. But that's a fun thing if you haven't, and it can be tea or other things, but I just really like kind of the color of the coffee. And I also even like mixing coffee and tea together just to get a different strength, that kind of thing. So I did a lot of coffee dyeing in different ways this year, a lot of different kinds of papers. So go back and look at my coffee dyeing videos. There's more than one, and I hope I have them all in the right playlist. But more recently, in the last few months, I was doing some on coffee dyeing all different kinds of paper, trying to just kind of think of anything you could dye. Okay, and then I started my Vintage Grunge Journal Volume 2. And when I did this Volume 1, which was the year before, I don't think I had done a video on exactly doing the cover. So I covered it in this video, in the second volume. My first journal got to be too big, but I already had in my mind what I wanted to go in it. And so I've continued it on. So I think in this Volume 2, I show how I'm doing this cover. There's lots of ways to do different covers and how to sew them in and all that. So this is one idea. And then this is just my first signature of this journal. And so I have worked on that, and there are videos on this. I want to get back to this. In fact, I think my most recent video before my little break was this project. When I did this too, and I think this is probably the year before, I just loved doing this kind of cover, and this is all with recycled packaging and old book page and stuff, and some coffee and that kind of thing, is making these little ones with all your little scrap offcuts. You know, when you cut down maybe a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper for your smaller journals, you end up with some kind of odd shaped scraps. So these are really cute little mini journals. So Vintage Grunge Journal, will continue that this year. Now I see why, since I've only been doing this 2.5 years, something like that, I see why you see videos of people and they'll say, it's taking me, 3 years to finish this journal. I see why now. They take a long time. And you get sidetracked doing other things. The next thing is, one thing when I was going back and forth between studios at the other place, I used to live there for almost 20 years. And so I know all the good vintage shops and thrift stores and all that stuff. So a lot of my videos, and I'll cover this later, I'm doing some shopping. And so I ended up, I'd come home with things here and need to add them to my collections and organize. So I did a video on just a way to organize my trims. And in that, I did a Cricut template. I don't think I have a Blake one. Maybe a littler one, you can kind of see the shape, where I created this template for a kind of what looked like a little spool to me, to hold my trims. Cut out a bunch with recycled cereal boxes and that sort of thing, and then store them in these vintage sewing machine drawers. So that was an idea. So this year, in 2022, I had done some kind of organizing your different materials and things, and I'll continue on that. I had started trying to get this studio more organized so that I can do a studio tour at some time. It's not there yet, but it's been something that I have been working on, a work in progress, let's say. And then I started working on The Elocutionist. So when I found Rachel at Roxy Creations, it was to do the slow stitching thing, and I just got hooked on her channel. I just loved how she used old books. I had quite a collection of grungy old books and parts of old books, and so I really liked how she was doing those for book covers. Up until then, I was taking old books, but I would paint the covers. Do I have one here that you can see? Let's see. I was doing things like this, where I was taking an old book and altering, doing mixed media to alter the cover. But sometimes I just love a book cover in its natural grungy form. And so I wanted to start kind of embracing my love for vintage things too, and use some and not paint over them. The really old, really neat ones. So this one was one that I had done. So this one's called The Elocutionist because that's the title of the book. So you can find videos on this. I decided after I did this one to keep it myself. It has, kind of a spineless book, exposed spine. So it's done in a kind of different way. All the pages are hinged, which is another kind of different thing. So there's a video that I go through about how I had an accident, the first way I was doing it was not working, so I changed how I was doing it. Anyway, so there's videos on all of this. I have continued to add to it. And I haven't picked it up for a while, but I will continue working on it. I clip things where I think they might want to go, but this has just been a really fun one. I used Rachel's digitals in this, along with some old book page and other kinds of things. So this one's an ongoing one I'm still working on. It also led me to wanting to just do more, combining the slow stitch spine. That one was an open spine. So this one, it's with my rusted fabric, and it's just really cantha stitch. This was done with a really big spring I used to rust it. So I just followed those lines. I'm really trying to, as I see videos of different ideas from different people, combine them together with all of my style and the things that I love, and maybe take different things from different people and put them together to create a separate idea. This book I was actually going to use this was Junk Journal July. I was going to do last year, and I only did the first one. This is how uncommitted I am. So it's January, and she's doing another one in January, and this would be Meg's Journals. So I don't know. I don't know what her first prompt will be, but this was my begin, and then I never did anything else. So again, this was going to be something I kept and worked on, but I'm not really good at actual journaling. I just like making the things. So that was my Elocutionist and where it kind of led. The next thing I had was I wanted to get back to work on my Use Your Wings journal. And let's see. That one is here. One of the things that I had shared was I started, because I'm hauling things back and forth, I started getting these 12 by 12 scrapbook paper bins to have my ongoing projects in. So if I want to take it back and forth with me, I can. Anything that maybe I've pulled, this has a bunch of painted papers and the master board and just different things that I had made to use in this journal, which again was one of my Reader's Digest altered books. So this series started in 2021, and I was doing pretty good at, you know, kind of keeping it going. And even working on it, doing a digital kit for this as I went. Of course, it's not out yet because the book's not finished. But I had gotten to a point, and there's some great stuff in here that I just love. But I got to a point, this was October the year before, and so I had somebody ask me, are you ever going to finish that one? Because they're following along from the beginning. You know, I think I was trying to do like a spread a month kind of thing. But I hadn't, and so this year I did this one page was all I did. And then it's supposed to get to, this would be the heart that I fold in the middle. If you've, let's see, where's that? If you watched from the very beginning of my journey, I was doing these altered books, these altered Reader's Digest books. This was more of a keepsake journal style, but I would fold a heart. This one's at the beginning of the book. This one's going to be in the middle of the book. This one, I had folded it and glued down the folds, which makes it a really skinny, you know, it's already a gator mouth anyway. But I've also done them where I leave them unglued, and it makes a wider, fluffier looking heart. So I think that's what's going to happen with this one. But you can see these just get really huge. I mean, that's only half the book. So it's going to end up sitting on a shelf really like this. But I just love it because it makes you see the heart. You see that there's interesting things inside. You just want to grab it off the shelf and look at it. Unfortunately, you don't get to see this then unless you decide one day to, you know, set it on the shelf this way. But either way, it's a lot of fun. They're fun to work on. I need to get back to this. So at some point, that's my Use Your Wings journal. So really, I only did one page of that the whole year. And then let's see, quilt bundles. So in my slow stitching foray, I guess, I had started collecting, I think one of the pages, one of the page prompts we had in here was to use a vintage quilt, this one with the cottage. And I didn't have any I wanted to tear apart, so I started shopping for them. Well, you buy a giant quilt. What am I going to do with all of that material? So I started doing quilt bundles to sell in my Etsy shop. And they end up like this. I sold out of the very first one pretty quickly. And so I ended up doing two more, this one and another one that's got some black in it. And there's all kinds of stuff in here. I have videos when I get these bundles together where you can see everything that's in them. So you go back and look at those videos, because I have in the Etsy listing too, if you look in the description, I have 2 different styles available still. I have a few of each, I think. And there is a link to the YouTube video in the description, in the Etsy shop listing, so that you can go watch and see exactly what's in it. There's also photos in the Etsy listing, but you can actually go see the whole video flip through kind of that. So that is my quilt bundles that I worked on. Printed envelopes. Another thing that I had done when I was buying Rachel's digitals, so I have to find where the bin of envelopes are. What did I do with them? When I bought Rachel's digitals, I had seen, I think it was actually Tracy Fox, had done a video on printing on envelopes, and I thought, oh, those would be great to do. Some of these are my own. and some of these are hers. So I thought it would be fun to print out a bunch of envelopes. So I have a video on how I did. Actually, I have 2 videos because I learned some things. I did how she did it, and I think by the time I actually played around with it, I couldn't remember exactly how she did it. So I kind of did my own thing, and then some of them I would take out the window and do a little embossed vellum window. So I have 2 videos on things I've learned about printing on envelopes. And so I just, do a bunch of these, and then I have them for pockets or whatever. And then I had, been creating my own digitals. So I was using my own digitals and doing some. So I just like to, print a bunch of these out whenever I have old junk mail. You can also print out on new envelopes, and then you don't have the, window or not. But I just keep a little, I love to collect old cigar boxes. So these hold envelopes perfectly. They're the kind of stand-up ones. So I did that, and then I also started gel painting on them. And I don't know that I have a video, but this is just, you can use it to clean off your brayer or whatever. Just more junk mail things to have ready, because I don't always do the same style. I want to work more on mixed media things and collage and that sort of thing. Not always just vintage stuff. So that was printing on envelopes. And then I did sample paper packs. I don't even have one to show because they sold out right away. I'm only going to mention them in case you would like them again. If you're new to all of this kind of thing, printing on different things, coffee staining different things, that type of thing, even if it's brand new papers, okay, we all use recycled things, but sometimes you want to copy stain or print on papers you're not familiar with. Vellum, which weight do you buy? Tissue paper, tracing paper, cardstock, different things. I put together a pack so that you didn't have to go buy an entire ream of paper. If you wanted to try it out first to see if it was something that you wanted to use, I just did some sample packs with just a few sheets of each type of paper. And then you can buy that paper pack just to try out. And then I think on the video that I did about that, in the link or down below in the description of the YouTube video, there are links to exact descriptions of the weight of the paper and all of that, and links to purchase those, whether through Amazon or whatever. But sticker paper, you don't always know which one you want to use for which thing. So in that video, I show different types of paper, new paper, and what you might be using that for. And then I had the sample packs available in my Etsy shop. So I'm sold out, but if you think I should do that again, if anybody wants any of those, let me know. You can watch that video, let me know, and I'll put some more together. So that was kind of a fun thing. And then I did one on buying digitals and storing digitals. So I had started making my own digitals, and at the same time, or I actually had started making all of these, and about the time before I started doing these vintage collage ones is when I purchased Rachel at Roxy Creations digital kit. And the reason I did that was I had bought a new printer, an Epson, the EcoTank printer, and I was having trouble with it. My first one was a lemon, and I had promised I would do a video on a review of that, and I probably should do it now that I've had it for a long time. I sent my lemon back and got a new one. They were great about it. It really was a lemon, so it wasn't me, but I didn't know that at the time. Something wasn't going right, and everything, the colors were not printing how they should have been printing. And so I had been watching all these videos and trying things out. And other than my colorful bohemian pack that I had, I didn't really have something good like that to test print. So I bought her digital kit because that was the type of thing I wanted to be making, whether my own and printing them out. That's what I needed to print out well. So I wanted to purchase one and print it out to see how it looked. So that got me hooked on kind of buying other people's digitals. So I did, you learn things as you're doing that, because I've had people purchase my digitals not realizing that's what they were buying. So I always read the description, because it's in there about what you're getting. But sometimes you might not know or about the size, whether you're printing 8.5 by 11, which is US letter, or A4 paper and that sort of thing. So I do a video on the things that you might want to know and understand about purchasing digitals from Etsy. And then also storing those, I did a couple of things. Now that I have been buying more, I have more ways of storing, so I'm just going to show you that real quick. But I did a video on making these books. These were a post-bound book, this type. So you can remove these and take pages in and out kind of thing. They screw on the back. So I had these vintage books that I turned into digital storage. Some things I like storing this way. And so I did a video on how I did these stamps. I'm in the middle of changing these out, so they're not all full. I'm trying to reorganize. But for certain things like these little stamps are great because you can see them all. So, and you can kind of expand on these. So I haven't worked in these in a while, but I do have a video how I made those. The other way that I had been storing things were these, and this is for like the little fussy cut things, these little bins. But I was finding that having these all over my table, I ended up dumping them out, you know, or they just took up too much space. But for specific things, you know, some of the things are too, like these baseboards and things are too thick for storing in that type of book. So I still do use these for certain types of things. And then the other thing that I love are these. These are from scrapbook.com. And you can get sets where it'll cut the large, medium, and small. And they happened to be on sale at the time. So I bought a whole bunch of these in all the sizes. And I mostly use these, not just for digitals. Let me see, because some of them do have digitals. Like say I get, I use these mostly for like keeping specific scraps. Like these are left over from my Bohemian. These are actually the original papers. But scraps that I ended up not using in that project, but I can keep them organized by what I know that, you know, what they are. These are just little scraps that I've stamped on, little sayings and date stamps and things. So they are also good for fussy cut sort of things, but like these are my digitals from, some of them are mine. Let's see. And some of them are Roxy Creations. When I did my 2 vintage collage digital kits, I did them to specifically coordinate with hers because I didn't want to do journals where it just had hers in there, because anybody can buy those and then our journals are all going to look kind of similar, maybe. I don't know. So I wanted more variety. And so I created a couple of mine, you know, my style is different than hers. My available items are different than hers, that kind of thing. But I wanted them to just be able to look cohesive together. So I can keep all the little scraps in the same thing. So these are great for scraps by a theme or a certain project. You know, these are my digital cutout from my Bodhi journal from the first volume. That way I just kind of have them all together. And this, I need to make this box cute, but this shoebox was perfect to hold all those. So that's just digitals. I also use, let's see. I also use these bins are just like the scrapbook paper ones, but they're like 8 by 10 or 8.5 by, they're for 8.5 by 11 size paper, you know, so they're what, 9 by 12 probably, something like that. So any digitals that I've printed out ahead, these could be anybody's. There's some of Rachel's in here, some of mine are in here. Just ones that I printed out. Some of them are partially used, cut apart, you know, pieces. I can kind of keep those all in one place, and then I can see when I'm getting low or not. So I have a couple of these, depending on what type. of digitals. And then let's see, what else did I do last year? Okay, thrift store hauls. So when I go to the other studio, like I said, that town I lived in, I know where all the good antique stores and all that kind of stuff are. And I have this one friend, Connie, who has a little shop called Anthology in a little town called Templeton. And she's not a huge she's on Instagram and Facebook, I guess, but she doesn't do a ton of social media marketing, that kind of thing. But she's just a sweetheart, and she knows what kind of stuff I do. And so every time I go see her, and I've done videos on this, she also loves old books. Every time I go see her, she'll have a bag of goodies for me, that stuff that she knows that nobody else will appreciate, or she doesn't think, stuff she can't sell in her shop or whatever, because she does clothing and vintage stuff. So this is from the last time I went and saw her. I came back and had surgery 2 days later, so I haven't even gone through it. But she had this whole shopping bag full of just things. Here's more stamps, old cards and just different things. So I go through, and sometimes I haven't done it for this one, but sometimes I'll go through and I'll, just share all the goodies that I find, because I also go visit the antique stores and find old books and stuff. So occasionally I'll do I will do a video on the goodies that I find. Now, I haven't shown these, so I'm just gonna give you some little something here. I may have shown this one. I don't remember if I did or not, but I love these. And I bought the set. I think she had 5. Let's see. Yeah, 5 of these books, and actually 2 of them, there was a duplicate. I just love these covers. And they're not super old, but I would love to gut these, or you do altered books with these. And I was going to look here real quick to see if these were old enough that I could, copyright 1901. So I can look this up, and revised in 1911. So I just need to see if it's out of copyright. If it wasn't renewed after that, then it is. And I can scan some things in here. But, so this was great. They're different. Let's see, they're Stoddard's lectures. There's Ireland. There's, this one's Ireland and Denmark and Sweden. There's some on Canada. I can't remember. They're all different countries. So I have 5 of them. So those were great. For my birthday, I splurged and bought this 2-volume set. This is just 1 volume, and I can't remember if I showed it or shared it or not. But it's on the Life and Times of Queen Victoria. And so I got these in August for myself. And again, I haven't scanned anything yet, I don't think, but I want to, without hopefully damaging the book. But just the artwork in here is beautiful. So I just had to splurge, and maybe I can scan these in papers, because these are old too. So 2 volumes of those, and then one I know I haven't shown, but luckily my husband's a shopper, and I tend to be the frugal one. So when he sees something, he's always willing to spend more than I am. Or he just understands the value of it, and maybe I'm just too cheap. But he encouraged me to buy this, and I'm so glad he did, because I just love it. This was on one of our road trips. He likes to see how excited I am when I find something like this. And so it's kind of fun for me, rather than buying souvenirs and things. I'll always remember that we bought this on that RV trip, but it's 1861 ladies book. I love the cover, so that'll be getting scanned. But inside, this is just amazing. There are like embroidery patterns. This is like ladies' home journal kind of thing. Because it's, I guess it was also a magazine, Ladies Book and Magazine, February 1861. So there are different volumes, like it was like a bunch of periodicals put together. But it's really neat. I've read a little bit of it, but there are you know, literary notices, health department articles. So it's like lots of little articles, but then it's also has, you know, like fashion and patterns for things, some short stories, you know, just all kinds of little things from, you know, the 1800s. So just the artwork again. But there's a lot of these. I just love these fashion. And the pictures like this one is not complete because it's like this book was put together from a magazine. But I just love, you know, there's music in here somewhere in between here. You know, some music. Just so much to scan. That hopefully I can get little bits and pieces of it without, it looks like the binding is already wanting to come apart here. I don't know that I'd take it apart. I might, you never know. I mean, it has some value how it is. You know, I paid not cheap for this, but it just would be so amazing to be able to lay things flat, you know, and get some nice scans. So I probably can't take this apart, but we'll see what I'm able to scan. But it's just an amazing book. So that's my book. Some of my thrift store finds that I will share. Rusty metal, moving on here. The year before I was doing a lot of rusting fabrics. So, you know, stuff like this that I'm now using. I use them in my book spines. I want to use them in my slow stitching, you know, just any part of junk journaling kind of thing. But when to get those, you're rusting out things. And then I found that I always love rusty things. I have forever. But I like to even incorporate these like I did in my slow stitching maybe. Like this is some of that rusty screen. So I have a video on, or at least one anyway, on rusting metals that I keep little bins of here. And then let's see, rusty metal, old books and copyright. Okay, I kind of talked about the old books a little bit. In the copyright. So I actually did a video, what I learned about researching for copyright and that kind of thing. And then videos on using those old books, how to take them apart and use them for your journals. So I actually, one of them that I had done is sold and already gone to its new home. But this one, and I have someone that had mentioned she wanted this one, Nancy. But, you know, if you see it and want it, sometimes people back out, you know, if they change their mind by the time I get it finished. But I have videos on, you know, using old books for the covers or even altering them. The video that I had done, this specific one, I bound it in a way that I did not intend to bind it. I put these pages right into the spine and then was going to cover the spine. But when I did that, I didn't like how loosey-goosey it was because I did a curved spine. I think it would have been fine if I did a flat, rigid spine like this is. You know, it's not all loosey-goosey when you have your pages all in. Like this one's finished, you know, and it's very sturdy and all of that. So I just wasn't thrilled with how that one came out. So I took it apart. And so I think I'll do on camera how I intended to install this so that you can see how using these rounded spines, it will work out better. I believe I had a video that I did it the correct way on a different journal. That's the one that sold, I think. That's already gone. So when I did this, I think I just wasn't paying attention to what I was doing and I did it wrong. But since then, while I've been laid up, I went ahead and did my spine cover and I really love how it turned out too. So using one of my digitals that I printed onto fabric and then embellished it with the slow stitching. So I'm going to finish this one up for sure soon, and it may be having a new home. And then let's see, okay, so old books for a journal, that kind of covered that. So there's some videos on that. And then I did mask making. Okay, so a couple of different things. You know, I think when I did the mask making video, it was just kind of I may have done a lot of it to music, I think. It was making these tags out of clothing. Oh, these weren't, this was. Just mask making anything tags, you know. It could be making a bunch of little of these file folder sort of pocket style pocket things, just so that you have them on hand. Have a little, keep these little boxes that my thank you cards came in, and just, you know, make up a whole bunch of backs for cards. So I like putting lined paper of some kind on the back. So these are like starts. They're just like the bases, but they can be embellished more or not. They just were made without a specific journal in mind. You know, these were all like little Tim Holtz 12 by 12 papers. You can cut them, you know, they'll already be kind of sectioned into these little small card kind of things to cut apart. So some of them I did is file folders, you know, just made up a bunch of those. Some of them I've done, prepared them to be like little notepad covers maybe. So just any kind of mask making thing you can do to have head start on some things. Same with my button things, which I've used one of these in my vintage grunge journal. I was making up just a bunch of really cute little grungy button card things on fabric, and then putting them on cards just to have those for journals later on. So that's, you know, something you can sit and do a lot of. So that's mask making. And then vintage collage. My vintage collage, I kind of showed a little bit and talked about why I did my vintage collage, was to go coordinate with Rachel at Roxy Creations. She had some French Chateau ones that I just absolutely love, and I just wanted to create more of those. So I started doing my own digital collage, and have those 2 volumes that are in my Etsy shop now. Here's one, you know, printed on envelopes. So this is a journal that's ready to go. And so there's videos on this using my vintage collage. But the gal that wanted a Victoria has never responded to my messages. So I've given her time now since before the holidays. So there's a video flip through of this one. And if it hasn't gone by then, when I do the other one, the blue one, I'll maybe do a flip through again. And then just, you know, they'll be in my Etsy shop. So this one was my vintage collage papers created into a journal that has that same hard cover like I'm using for my stitchery journal. And then I actually took an old doily and did some extra stitching on it in one of my rusted fabrics. So that is, then this button is just, somebody asked me how this was attached. It's just tied on here. I did put a little bit of glue and shoved it through the eyelet, which kind of was holding it, but now it's not. So I might glue that down better, but it's just a little button. So that's that for the vintage collage. And I want to keep working on those 2, just making more because they're fun. And I like using them mixed in with other things in the journals that I've been making lately. And then my Etsy shop again. I've added to my Etsy shop from what it originally was just my knitted neck warmers and different knitted items. I have a few styles that I carry consistently. I've been doing those for several years now. And I still enjoy knitting at night or whenever, you know, I'm just sitting around. And so I'll continue doing those, but I have added things. My jewelry website, I may end up even closing because I didn't focus on it at all last year. So I keep telling myself I'm just going to start moving my inventory into my Etsy shop, and it's just a time-consuming process to do that. So I do have a few pieces there in my Etsy shop, and then again the digitals are there. A few other things I did last year. I had paper packs, which are gone, but I may, you know, if you're interested in that, or even packs of coffee stained paper, that kind of thing. I may put together just bundles of random things and sell at some point this year. I don't know. But I had made these are little tabs. When you make your own shipping tag, style tag, I made this little reinforcement that goes over instead of just the round holes that go on both sides. When you buy an actual old shipping tag, it has this fold over thing. So I had made a bunch of those in craft, and then also in using some of my rustic textures, making some of those. So I had them available in my Etsy shop. Those sold out already. So they kind of take a long time to make just because there's so many little cuts. But if you're interested in me continuing to carry those, let me know. And I can add those back in after I make some. And then the other thing is I had designed my own file folder tabs in different sizes. I think there's like 4 different sizes that are cut out. If you don't have one of those punches, those whale punches that will make your little tabs. So, and I still have a few of these in my shop too. So that's my Etsy shop. Hopefully I'll continue to add different things as the year goes through, if I had come up with ideas about different things. If there's anything that you see that you would like me to add in that I haven't, just please let me know and leave your comments down below. I know this was quite a long video, but I ended up having covered more this year than I thought I had. So I'm looking forward to next year. It kind of helped me reorganize where I had left off on certain projects and maybe kind of help guide me now that I'm able to get back in the studio, guide me to where I want to start this year and where I want to go. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. We're still snowing. We still have power. So hopefully I'll get this uploaded soon. Now have a great rest of your day. Happy New Year. And go make something. Bye.